You need more what?
Never mind.
It's called trickle-down economics. That's what that prostitute told me. She was having a going-out-of-business sale. I've never seen one of those before, but I guess, retirement hits us all.
Yeah. Keep a wet nap handy.
You can see her kidneys.
It's disturbing.
We're
very much there.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
And I'm J-Lo.
And man, have we got a fucked up one for you today. Hoo boy. I don't even know where to start or begin.
Grab that red twine.
Yeah. Pepe Silva. Today, the subject of our show is a woman by the name of Cathy O'Brien. But it's not just about Cathy O'Brien. It's also about brain, some kind of brain scrubbing, brain cleansing,
disillusion,
straining.
It's about brainwashing, specifically the mythology of a little thing called Project Monarch, a brain control program, a mind control program. I'm going to be saying them all mixed up.
It's still accurate.
Yeah, brain, mind. Yeah,
I think the government thinks they're the same.
Well, see, you have MK Ultra, right? And we know this happened for a fact because there's 20,000 plus documents that back it up. There were congressional hearings. There were people who were paid out. There were people who died. There were people who were slipped LSD in prisons and universities, such as Charles Manson, or what was his name, the Unabomber? Kaczynski. He's another one.
Kaczynski.
Uncle Ted. So, yeah,
Who at the universities got fed LSD?
Kaczynski.
And probably John Lilly.
I think he was tangential to it. I really don't think
he was out looking for it, man.
He was maybe, inside to a degree, but not. I'm not sure. I really don't think he
didn't have to get slipped nothing.
I think so. Yeah. He was just a weird fucker.
The catalyst is Cathy O'Brien or Cathy O'Brien. I've been calling her Cathy O'Brien.
Yeah, it's O'Brien.
Oh, it's
so English.
If you're illiterate, then it kind of looks like O'Brien. Did you guys know that there's a lot of lawsuits in this story? And there's a lot of intrigue and mystery, and this spills over our northern border a little bit.
Yeah, Cathy O'Brien and her husband / deprogrammer / unmitigated bullshit artist, Mark Phillips, they wrote a book together. Well, Cathy wrote most of it.
Tell us how you really feel.
It's called Trance-Formation of America. So you can see there's lots of clever wordplay already. It's filled with clever wordplay, actually, because that's what the Project Monarch people use to mind control people. That's one of their tools, apparently. This book, man, I gotta say, it started out with one of the worst goddamn things I've ever read. There's disgusting shit in it, and I don't know, man. Like, this all plays into the whole, shit that's been going on, the last several years about Illuminati conspiracies of people.
It's so convenient that they're the Illuminati.
Yeah, right? Constantly out of reach. No, just all the Hollywood is programming people, programming celebrities, programming children. I mean, I'm not calling bullshit on all of it because, there is some, there's some ill shit going on in the background sometimes, but to this extent, this all plays into crazy, satanic panic horse shit. Like I said, out of the 20,000 plus documents on MK Ultra, there is no mention of a Project Monarch whatsoever. But when and I know I have a bad habit on this show of digging on a certain cross section of people who live in this country and who speak the loudest, I'll say. But it's that same cross-section that sort of added a lot of this mythological bullshit to mind control. And I think it's kind of fucked up that you have people who are seriously hurting and traumatized, people who think that they're being gang stalked. Maybe they are. I don't know. But when you have something that comes out like this that's this big and this unwieldy, this overall conspiracy that involves trauma-based mind control and, intentional multiple personality disorder being caused in people to turn them into like Manchurian candidates or sex slaves or whatever you call it. Man, you're fucking it up for the people with real problems. I mean, I don't know. That's just what it seems like to me. It
always devolves into the sex slave because clearly that's why psychology was invented.
Hey, man, it's the lurid details and the fucked up shit,
Well, I mean, to be fair, anything that has to do with the explanation of the beginning of humanity, it takes about 0.2 seconds to get to all the fucking.
That's true. I mean, it's the lurid details, that's what brings the crowd in. That's what put asses in seats. I definitely want to refrain from a lot of that today because, as I said, it's super disgusting.
We know about it. We don't need the details.
Yeah, but
I won't say those words on this show.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure what I
don't even know what I believe anymore.
I want to be very careful with some of this today because I do believe that this woman was traumatized in some way. I think something fucked up did happen to her.
I think something really fucked up happened to her.
So it's very touchy. And it's the same with a lot of these other people who are in the same basket. I find it strange that most of the people who come forward with a lot of this Project Monarch stuff are predominantly women or men who left their families to help these women, quote unquote. So, I don't know. It's just strange. I mean, women don't have it easy, obviously. And, but once again, this is a.
He was not joking, by the way.
This is a touchy area. So we're just going to try and report the news as it's come to us, as we've found the data. And try to keep it fairly respectable.
We will report the facts as we know them.
Yeah. No matter how obviously bullshit they are. I mean, some of it's just outrageous.
Throughout this episode, the more unsavory bits will be delivered via my prim and proper, cold, clinical, robotic English accent.
But yeah, Matt, kick us off.
Cathy O'Brien, born December 4th, 1957. She's an American conspiracy theorist and author, of course, as we just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been a part of this Project Monarch. And she's saying a lot of things, isn't she?
Yeah.
The CIA and Ultra. She makes these assertions that in this book, Trance-Formation of America, these people were treated, become basically human capital meat puppets for a future use. The allegations stem from severe beatings, psychological trauma, and
assault of a
very particular kind.
Of a carnal nature.
Gynecological catastrophe.
Yeah. According to how they lay this out, is that when you are subjected to these traumas, your mind disassociates, and therefore you're implanting an extra personality in these people. So it's sort of like a whole Manchurian candidate thing where you can be triggered to turn on this other personality and
go to the library, pay your taxes.
Yeah. You can trigger these people and they can be used as. See, this is where it gets tricky.
So here's in above mentioned book. O'Brien claims as a child she was first abused by her father, as well as by a network of
Satanists, government workers.
Those people that have a website that usually people spend 5 minutes on and then go to prison for doing it.
Yeah.
Those people.
Chuck E. Cheese pizza.
Yeah. Supposedly she was then forced by the CIA as a participant in Project Monarch, which she claims is a subsection of Project MK Ultra, the Project Artichoke. And according to O'Brien, under hypnosis, she was able to recall memories of sexual abuse of both herself and her daughter by international
Chomo
rings, drug barons, and Satanists. And
Hail Stan?
Who allegedly used a form of, quote, trauma-based mind control programming to make her a sex slave.
A bang maid.
These are pretty egregious claims, man. I mean,
yeah, and I was gonna say, Trance-Formation of America, the book, it was obviously privately published because the number of names of politicians and for some reason tons of country music stars and baseball players and celebrities, etc., that she name drops would have been a litigation nightmare.
Yep. And
if it was any other thing through like a publishing house.
And here it goes. O'Brien accuses a wide range of prominent individuals from American, Canadian, Mexican, and even the Saudi Arabian government officials to the stars of the country music scene, which no one could ever believe that, of being part of the Project Monarch conspiracy to operate sex slave rings and to commit child abuse. For example, and this is probably, I want to say this is probably from the book. O'Brien claims that George Herbert Walker Bush and Miguel de la Madrid used holograms to appear to her in altered forms, saying that, quote, Bush apparently activated a hologram of a lizard-like, even in more quotes, alien, which provided the illusion of Bush transforming like a chameleon before her eyes. In retrospect, I understand that Bush had been painstakingly careful in positioning our seats in order that the hologram's effectiveness was maximized. This is the kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. George Herbert Walker Bush was the head of the CIA, which is like one of the sleaziest organizations ever devised.
Yeah.
So,
great international policy, horrible domestic.
Yeah. It's like watching the alien autopsy. You know, it's Schrodinger's cat. We don't know if it's dead or alive because it could be real or they're so good at this stuff it could be faked.
Yeah, I mean, if they're doping people constantly, you can probably come. I mean, all these are pop culture references that she comes up with, right? Baseball, country music.
Boxcar Willie. Seriously.
The best lie is the one that you believe.
Well, see, and this is another thing. She actually mentions this straight up in her book. This touches on the idea of clown ops, like we've talked about before, where you insert some shit that's just so crazy, like maybe something did happen to her, and they put all this crazy bullshit in there so that when she tells her story, no one believes her. And she even mentions this. She's like, maybe that happened. So, I mean, she's not totally out of her, basket. But, yeah. And, the same thing goes for the whole lizard shit. Like I've said before, I think it's a good metaphor. Like, I think there's certain people in this world who are completely controlled by their lizard brain, and that's all they think with, territoriality, aggressiveness.
First.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, me first.
So, and the gimmies.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the big problem is that you have all this egregious, outrageous bullshit in here, and there's people out there who, have really been subjected to fucking trauma.
Yeah, there are people out there who have been literally subjected to just about every single thing that she says.
Yeah.
We know this to be true.
I don't know about everything she says.
Not everything, but I said just about everything.
I can't validate the whole HW thing.
I mean, when you start saying things about the former CIA director doing bad stuff, I'm inclined to believe that when you talk about, members of the Saudi Arabian government participating in
sleepy time trips to Candyland.
Oh, yeah.
I would believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at an all-time low in belief in the government.
Yeah.
So it has to, her claims are ambiguous because you can't disprove them.
Well, would you like to hear what critics said of it?
Yeah.
Sure.
So religious and political scholars have criticized O'Brien's claims for their lack of any supporting evidence. David G. Robertson criticized them as symptomatic of baseless moral panic and noted that no one has ever been prosecuted for such crimes, nor has any corroborating material evidence ever been produced. According to scholar Michael Barkin, scholarly and journalistic treatments of MK Ultra make no mention of any Project Monarch. And he also describes O'Brien's account as sensational, even by the standards of conspiracy literature.
Oh, my Lord, fucking sensational is
salacious.
That's kind of the smelly part of the stew.
Yeah.
And notes
the
that
sensationalism.
He notes that the black helicopter conspiracy theorist Jim Keith considered it fraudulent or delusional, end quote. Jody Dean cited O'Brien's claims as an example of conspiracy theorists' tendency to excessive leaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, even conspiracy theorists find this to be a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
But see, and here's the...
But is it clown ops?
Well, I mean, that's definitely an aspect of it. And see, yeah, the whole satanic panic thing, man, I can't believe it keeps jumping off over and over. I mean, I get it because this is the same shit that happens throughout history, like, you know, like blood libel with the Jews. The same thing throughout history. It just shows up over and over again. You have these sensational bullshit that comes out, and it has to do with Satan, and Satan is real, and da-da-da-da-da.
Well, her claims go right along with the satanic panic, though, if you think about it.
Oh, yeah, because in the book, she even posits that the whole process of trauma-based mind control and, you know, implanting these extra personalities in people was basically formulated by the Nazis, which to a degree, yeah, I could see that. Like, we brought over, you know, not just rocket scientists, but people who are all about psychiatry and psychology and the weird frontiers of it. But she even claims that people would like implant demons in the personalities so that if you tried to like deprogram them, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm a fucking demon.
Oh, there's like, a Trojan horse built in.
Yeah, exactly. That's
very... If that's false, that's very creative.
I was going to say it's pretty impeccable that you brought up the Germans, because one of the CIA payroll doctors actually has some pretty funny quotes about what he thought about the Germans in general.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to run a brainwashing facility, you probably want some pretty good doctors in there, right?
There's going to be a little rat feces in there.
Just a little bit. This dude, we'll call him a doctor because he technically is and was, is Dr. Ewan Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron.
Big old MK Ultra guy.
He collected a paycheck from the CIA for a very long time, and he has this quote. I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't have it in front of me, but he's like, you know what? The Germans shouldn't be in any position of authority or power at all, because they're going to immediately militarize it. I mean, like, even like, they shouldn't even work for the DMV. or like take your change at the toll booth, because they're going to turn it into a whole fascist regime. And like, it's
Nine, I need exact change.
Yeah,
it's taking logic to a whole new level and then just radicalizing and then sensationalizing.
So because it's the 50s and 60s. And we've already been through this twice, guys. We had to take you out twice.
You guys take over the world twice.
You guys can't be Germany anymore. And like that was his sentiments on it exactly. He's like, man, if you even you can't have more than 2 Germans in a room, all right? They're gonna take over the whole room. And I was like, wow, this dude really has it out. Like,
it was a different time. Yeah. I mean, things were still fresh in people's minds, you know.
Yeah, and so those hot sports opinions, we'll put those aside for the other hot sports opinions that he gathered from their intel.
It's weird. The whole Nazi idea is still very prevalent throughout conspiracy theory, because like if you look at like secret space program ideas, we brought all these Nazi rocket scientists over, and then they filtered through the government and then into, according to certain, secret space program conspiracies, they filtered into the private sector and defense and aerospace, etc. So now you have these Nazi true believers, quote unquote, that basically run the defense aerospace industry. And you have the ideas of like breakaway civilization and, cities on the moon of Nazis, etc. Like, it's just amazing that they were such a supervillainous cross-section of America.
And that has a lot to do with this episode. There's so much of what we're talking about the Nazis that is true, that you would believe that they would have a fucking space program that now has a breakaway society on some other planet.
Yeah,
they were that crazy.
Yeah. My favorite part about all this is that the duplicitous nature of Americans, right? We all know Nazis are bad and government shouldn't be trusted to a degree, right? But at the same time,
make America great again.
In the instance that the Nazis are the bad guys, right? And like they're really efficient at being bad. Well, they
really were,
unless they can vote for you.
And if you look at their power structure, it was not very good. They had a lot of bureaucratic pitfalls and shit. And they're just really efficient at killing. And that was it. That's the only thing they were efficient at. And the U.S. government over here, like, it's weird, this duplicitous nature of A1, this all-powerful being that can build a skiff that houses fucking aliens, and then at the same time, like,
Our infrastructure is crumbling, and
did you guys see that bridge that fell yesterday? And then like our government's super powerful, but at the same time it's run by a bunch of fucking idiots. Like so.
I think that's
why the parts that don't matter are run by idiots.
Well, yeah, you're not going to put your best guys in the post office, but I mean, like, I don't know. I think at the same time, if I were in the intelligence community, I would foster these sort of paranoid beliefs to make people think, like, yeah, let them think that because
it's good for business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And,
let people think those UAPs are ours or that they're not ours because we want to scare the shit out of everybody.
Yeah. Wink, wink, China and Russia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's all, man, I hate to throw this word around so easily, especially on this topic today, but psyops, man. I mean, it's
Knew a psyops girl. She was pretty, you would believe that she was a murderous person.
Love Taco Tuesday.
You look at advertising, for example, and the ubiquitous nature of thought reform, as they call it in China back in the day, and probably still.
Re-education.
Yeah, exactly. And just the manipulation of people's thought process just to sell them a washing machine, So that's just, the most basic everyday form of it. So from there on, who knows? And then when you get into like the government side of it, you have extremely odd bits and pieces of history. Like there's a quote unquote Satanist, or I guess you'd call him a Satanist. This guy, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, he was like famous, quote unquote, I guess, Satanist who used to be in the Church of Satan, but he's like a high-ranking military dude. He broke off from the Church of Satan, started the Temple of Set because the Church of Satan wasn't hardcore enough, I guess.
And their sister churches, ready and go.
I could see that.
But he wrote a paper or an essay called Mind War. And he's supposedly all up in psyops, like in stuff with Monarch and all kinds of stuff like that. You see his name pop up again and again. But the dude is just like a fat, tubby Eddie Munster looking motherfucker. I don't know. I really like, and these government people, they're all like schlubs and squares, man. Like, I don't know. The only story out of Trance-Formation of America that I read that I will lend any credence to was the Dick Cheney story, and that he liked to hunt people like the most dangerous game. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I believe that.
Just for clarification, when Dick Cheney shot that guy in the face on accident, quote unquote, that happened after this book was written.
Yes.
Okay, so just to put it in a time frame, I'm not saying anything one way or the other. I'm just saying chronologically that book came out in 95, and my apology for getting shot in the face, quote, happened. Sorry I got in the way of your gunshot.
Yeah.
Man-sized safe in his office. Anyways, so these big allegations require big proof, right? Yep. Well, so there's this little place across the border down Canada way in Montreal, the Paris of the Western Hemisphere.
What? I thought Canada was just like super nice and everybody's cool and...
Well, when you're getting bankrolled by the black
Central
budget,
Intelligence Agency?
Yeah. Don't call it that building on the outside. We won't get people to come in anymore.
They did train Wolverine.
So the CIA went into Canada and to this facility called the Allen Memorial Facility. It was a psych ward.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Cameron, as we referenced earlier, was a CIA doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, and real big into thinking that I can fix you the way the CIA wants you to be. And does that sound great? And they're already incoherent half the time. They're already struggling with some fucking problem that, clearly medication at the time isn't going to fix, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about like the dark ages still of psychiatry and psychology.
And
I just want everybody to know that, like, from a spectrum of a human that looks like Jesus to a human that looks like the Borg from Star Trek, CIA's idea of making somebody better is like the worst you can get.
So Cameron was big time operator inside the MK Ultra project, and he was given the head of the department for this erasing program that they started out here at the Allen Memorial.
Was this the psychic driving?
No, this was deprogramming and reprogramming,
oh boy,
as they like to refer to it.
Yeah.
And he was paid so from like the 50s to 60s, and even in 50s into the 60s, He didn't make it past 67. He mysteriously died in the woods of a stroke with his son. Anyways, he was paid $69,000 from 1957 to 1964 to carry out the MK Ultra experiments there, known as the Montreal experiments. In addition to LSD, he experimented with various psychedelic drugs such as a curare, C-U-R-A-R-E? Curare, thank you. Electroconvulsive therapy. Wait, is that electroshock?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that doesn't help anybody. They were doing that up into the 80s.
Was he doing this to himself, or was he doing this to other people?
Other people, because you can't shock yourself and turn it back off, Jason.
No, I'm talking about the LSD and whatnot.
No, he's a square, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was giving it to other people.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that we know he got down is...
That could be bad for you. Here you go.
Yeah. Here, let's see if this is bad.
I think this was the psychic driving
Yeah, you're
guy.
right. You know what? You're right.
Yeah, because, man... if people out there don't know, psychic driving, like basically what it was they would slip a shitload of acid to these people, electroshock, and then they put them out, put them out of consciousness, and they're still got a head full of acid, and then they would put headphones on them that played whatever suggestion it was, usually their own voice recorded to them, which is already fucked up.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. So, already... MK Ultra is already so fucked up. We don't even need a Project Monarch. It's like it's like I even said about the lizards and shit.
It's a hat on a hat.
Exactly. Yeah. Like Prince Philip, is that his name? The gross one? Charles, his brother?
I don't know.
I mean, they're all gross, but whatever. They don't even need to be lizards because they're already so gross. It's just
hunchbacks.
Yeah. Ooh.
They have slime on them.
I think you're thinking of Prince Philip was married to Queen Elizabeth II. And then, yeah, and the weirdo Andrew is the one that does the weird. That's the guy.
Yeah, he's
he's got some weird friends. I don't know.
Paging Mr. Epstein.
Yeah,
you can't come to my house. So as Mike was saying, the psychic driving experiments consisted of putting a subject in a drug-induced coma for weeks at a time. In some cases, up to 3 months in at least one case.
God, man.
Which is probably not good for you.
Yeah, you ever just sleep a long time and you wake up and your head's fucked up?
Back hurts.
Yeah,
you can imagine.
You're tired from sleeping.
Sleepy time trips to Candyland.
And they would play tape loops of noise or simple statements. These experiments were typically carried out on patients who had entered the Institute for minor problems such as anxiety disorders or postnatal depression. Or
great.
Many were permanently debilitated after these treatments. Such consequences included incontinence, amnesia, forgetting how to talk, it gets worse, forgetting their parents, and thinking that their interrogators were their parents. This work was inspired by paralleled by psychiatrist William Sargent, who was involved with the intelligence services and experimented extensively on his patients without their consent, causing similar long-term damage. Sid Taylor stated that Cameron used the curare to immobilize his patients during his research. Well, that's a little suspect. One test he noted, quote, although the patient was prepared by both prolonged sensory isolation, roughly 35 days, and by repeated depatterning, and although she received 101 days of positive driving, no favorable results were obtained, end quote. Patients were tested in the radiotelemetry laboratory, which was built under Cameron's direction. Here the patients were exposed to a range of RF electromagnetic signals that monitored the changes in their behavior. Weird.
Yeah.
It was reported that none of the patients sent to the RTL showed any signs of improvement.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was Ewan Cameron or Dr. Sidney Gottlieb. He was another big guy in MK Ultra as well. But once this all came out after Frank Olson died and his family sued the government, and then they were, going to pay out so that they couldn't sue the government.
Oh, but there's a waiver they got to sign too.
Yeah, of course.
You can't ever sue us again when you find out about the other shit we did to you.
Yeah, and then also on top of that, it's like we shut down MK Ultra in 1970 whatever. We've talked about shit before that. I believe it was with our remote viewing episodes where it's like let's just give it a different name, change it around. We've obviously seen that happen with MK Ultra
don't you guys
the
know
sub-projects.
When a business is failing, the first thing they do is come in there and give it a paint job. Look, see, it's nice and new and clean. No, it's still the same shitty apartments.
Once again, with the Nazi stuff and how this all came through paperclip and what have you. I can't remember if it was in Cathy O'Brien's book, but there's talk about
take a breath.
Disney plays a large part in all of this Monarch stuff because a bunch of their movies are supposedly used as programming, as well as just basically the quote-unquote fairy tales of Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland and The Wizard of Oz. They're used for programming, and they use, like, follow the white rabbit, and there's all these programming codes and triggers to activate people. And because of the overlap with Disney and Nazis, there's mention of Disneyland being closed down so that Joseph Mengele, who was still alive, by the way, and came to America in Project Monarch, Project Paperclip, they shut Disney down so he could wear his SS uniform and romp and play.
So do you think it's because I think based on that would explain why Nikita Khrushchev was so pissed off he couldn't go to Disneyland. I mean, dude, he railed for hours about it. Like, dude,
took his shoe off and banged it on Mickey Mouse's head.
You can't go. We can't provide security. But I heard through the grapevine that you guys had Mengele in there, and if he can go toe tapping around there and getting on the Flutog ride, why the fuck can't I?
Could it be Satan? Sorry.
Ron DeSantis.
I had to throw some church lady in there.
You have to say Governor expletive deleted now because he signed that bill into law.
Governor exploitive deleted.
Yeah, you got to say, or redacted. Governor redacted. You can't,
Governor redacted.
He's trying to get that bill passed. I don't know if it did or not, but it said that you can't criticize elected politicians in Florida.
It goes directly against the Second Amendment. No, the First Amendment.
The Second Amendment's going to get involved sooner or later.
Yeah.
No, that goes directly against the Constitution. Bill
I agree.
Rights.
Yeah, that'll get tossed up to the Supreme Court if they want to hear it. But,
only in Florida.
Only in the Florida Supreme Court can you.
Isn't it weird that a Florida man became governor of Florida?
And then,
oh man,
and then just Florida man things keep happening to him. There's this game we play, everybody out there listening, called Counter Red Flags. And it's a fun game, and every time a Florida man story comes up, we just say, ding or dong, and then
the witch is dead.
Yeah, whoever gets the most in a Florida man story wins.
Whenever Governor exploitive deleted happens, I say dong.
It won't take long. They'll bat that thing down.
Yeah, no, I'm not too worried about it.
They will go hardcore defense on that.
Man, I know this isn't anything new, especially after our Lyndon LaRouche episode. We saw that this kind of shit's been going on in this country for quite a while. But it never ceases to amaze me, the level of reaction, and how the reaction is so fucking over the top nowadays. It blows my mind, man.
I don't know, man. Yesterday I watched The Wizard of Oz, like with Pink Floyd behind it.
Yeah.
And all I could see, because, they take out all the talking, thank God. All you can see is people just flipping the fuck out the entire movie. Just flipping the fuck out. Just like.
Overacting.
Just like, smoke this weed, man. Jesus Christ, just chill out.
Those people were all high on horrible paint
cocaine
fumes
or something.
And
it was the 30s.
Yeah, it was the metal and the makeup, etc. Project Monarch, the mind control levels, they have different.
You get a different gift set.
Yeah, basically, there's different memberships you can be assigned to. So they've got Alpha, which is general programming. This is the first programming put in. It includes giving slaves a photographic memory that record everything every altar sees or hears, which Cathy O'Brien has attested that she has, but has never demonstrated, nor the 44 times visual acuity that these programmed people have. She's never, like, I see a dime across the room. It's never been tested, even though she claims up and down. Well, not up and down, but she claims she has it several times throughout the book. Beta, sexual programming. These are alters instructed in the art of seduction and sexual pleasure. Betas take part in ritual sex, acting and directing, pornography, and prostitution. For those trained as, I don't even want to say this, trained as sex kittens, often see themselves as cats. That's another thing. This is like one of those weird Illuminati, like, watch the music videos. They all act like cats, or they show their, they put the diamond over their eyes.
Do you think it was because of the Adam West Batman show and Catwoman?
Maybe.
The government's just this makes sense.
Project
Hey, man, Julie Newmar.
The kid.
Yeah. Top betas are known as presidential models. As the title implies, they discreetly service presidents, royalty, and other high-ranking government officials. They regularly hang around the White House. Delta, assassination programming. Alters trained in combat, assassination, and espionage. Once again, there's people who claim that they've been trained as super soldiers, yet I'm sure if you snuck up on them and tried to slap them in the face, they're not going to stop it. Theta, psychic killer programming. Psychic assassins able to cause aneurysms from anywhere. Maybe we should stop talking about them anytime. They telepathically communicate with quote-unquote mother. I'm not quite sure what that's all about. Gamma, deception programming. These alters are trained as deceivers. They spread disinformation and are able to throw a therapist off track. That could be any one of us. Omega, suicide programming. Alters program for self-mutilation and self-destruction. Children of Monarch slaves emitting from multi-generational families are known as bloodliners. These are considered superior to non-bloodliners, who were often kidnapped off the street or purchased from underground child trafficking rings. Jesus,
dancing Christ.
Non-bloodliners are deemed expendable and are often sacrificed in blood rituals or unceremoniously murdered to terrify and further traumatize bloodliners. Man, okay, you know what? I said I wasn't going to really try to do this, but I got to say, man, this is obviously stuff that comes from the dark, fucked up psyche of a certain cross-section of people in this country. Like, this is their, like, weird, fucked up, pseudo-pornographic fantasies that they're, like, projecting out into the world, and it's fucking disgusting. Like,
it's hurting people.
Yeah, it's, man, and it's, this stuff, it affected an election in this country. That's what's weird. Like, it's gotten to that level that there's people who are going around, they really, truly believe in this stuff 100%. And it's fucking terrible on so many levels. I
mean, where there's smoke, there's fire.
It sounds like an instance of trauma becoming fetish.
Well, see, and that's another thing, man. This is another thing that disturbs me about all this, is you have this is where I'm going to get a little wooey-woo, but you have the whole sort of, like, chaos magic effect. So if people tell this story and keep telling it, it's like they say in politics, if you say it 5 times, it's true.
Yep.
So they keep telling this story, people are going to, like, lose the source of it or figure, it comes from somewhere and it's got to have some truth to it. And sooner or later, you've got people who are really buying into the narrative, and
that's a good point.
They do say 4 out of 5 can't be wrong. All the time. I'm not going to say the name of the company.
We do believe the majority. We believe the majority.
Yeah. It's wiki reality is what it is.
But we have learned through history, even recent history, I mean, just how inaccurate that can be.
Yeah. You do see this today, but the best examples I can think of were when shit like this was going on and it's all wrapped up in the satanic panic. And then you have unscrupulous dickheads within the media like Geraldo and, I'm going to say it, Oprah, having like 2-hour specials about Satanism and, the dark underground. And it's just all, for them to get, Well,
Geraldo gave away troop movements live on the air, so he's technically committed treason. So
fuck your mustache, Geraldo.
Yeah, dude. Stop giving away troop movements, jerk.
Satan's underground. This week, 8 o'clock at Friday.
That's like the same shit they do at church, like in the molestation building, where they pull you aside and they're like, okay, I'm going to scare the living shit out of you so that you believe what I believe.
Man, I've heard some fucked up shit about the whole church side of this. Once again, we try to keep things light around here.
So, as we do...
Oh,
I was gonna tell you guys. So the Allen Memorial was not the facility that she was at because this happened in the U.S. Right? This is on our territory because she was born in Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like this is just supposed to be proof, quote unquote. But I will say this, that there was enough proof in Canada that they settled a They settled out of court a day before they were supposed to go to court, and the CIA paid out $750,000 to 9 plaintiffs. And then, shortly after that, other people started coming forward, and another couple of rounds of subsequent $100,000 payouts happened because, there's proof.
Yeah. That, and once again, MK Ultra, yes, totally happened. This is where also it kind of sucks because you have people on one side who say conspiracies are all bullshit and they don't happen. But that's obviously not true because 3 people in a room like us, if we were like hatching a bank robbery, that's a conspiracy.
Which we're not.
We're not.
I thought hatching meant solving a bank robbery.
But yeah, then you have people on the whole other side who are like, well, MK Ultra happened, so obviously, this could be a possibility too.
So
Project
Monarch. All the way to the end.
That whole take it with a pinch of salt thing, and they take
a shot of penicillin.
Yeah. And it's not really fair to the people who actually suffered through that.
That's true.
To expound on this potentially fictional or just a misrepresentation or a misinterpretation of trauma.
Yeah. Monarch is totally fictional. Completely 100%. It's not, there's nothing that backs it up.
And even with a monetary payout, that doesn't give those people back what they were robbed of.
Right. And how insulting is that? I can do anything I want to you, and if I just pay you for it, then it's fine.
Yeah. Here's some money. Good luck being normal and living a normal life.
I want a public apology on national TV. And no, you're not going to get that because we don't negotiate.
And I want to ride in the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
And I want you to shut down Disneyland for a day
so I can wear my SS uniform and romp and play. Yeah, dude.
It's very difficult to differentiate between what is true and what is fiction when you have been in bed for 90 days. And then you get up and you think that your interrogators are your parents, and it's like that Dr. Seuss book, Are You My Mommy? And, you seem to be a little bit more willing to listen to and believe whatever your interrogator tells you. And so did those people.
Like, imagine you've been in a coma, right? And you wake up and you say, what year is it? And you start asking questions. Whoa, it's like Back to the Future when Biff got the fucking...
got the book
and came back, and the 80s are all fucked up now, man. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Well, we got flying cars.
Yeah, almost.
We do, we just don't have the infrastructure for them.
No, man, you think people are drive like assholes now? Shit. You give them fucking an extra dimension to go up and down, they're going to be an extra bit of asshole.
They're going to be extra.
Dude, I saw a wreck one time between man versus bicycle.
Oh my God.
While I was...
Who won?
At the very end, the boy on the bicycle, the boy on the bicycle ended up winning everything. But so it was years ago. I was en route and it was like super early in the morning, and I'm in the turn lane and I see this lady pull up to the light and she's putting makeup on. I'm like, that's a bad move, lady. And because she's really, really, really vain. Mm-hmm. And this kid's crossing the street, and it's like the old dude tells, like, how do you get it out fast enough? He's got to go. That bicycle can cross because it's safe. And she just starts up, and boom! And I'm like, oh my God! Yeah, I hope that lady went to jail because it was dude. She was obviously
her vanity destroyed that little boy's life.
But that kid sued the dog ass out of her. I'm sure.
I hope.
Yeah.
You could say dog shit.
I'm going to sue the mascara off you, lady.
Oh, man.
Dude, I pulled over just to make sure the kid was okay. He got up, which is great, but I mean, she got a head start of an intersection to speed up.
Oh, she just drove off?
When she was driving into it, and then she stopped and freaked out, and like, good, you should freak out, lady. You're a bitch. I hope you're listening.
You're a good Samaritan for freaking out.
Yeah, and hitting him in the first place.
Yeah. That kid had no business on that crosswalk with the fucking go-ahead.
His atoms were in my Adam's way.
She just believes in the quantums. She's going to pass right through him.
Quantums.
I can hit this kid on a bicycle, but on the 1,000th time, I'll go right through him.
Obviously not a physics major.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. This whole thing... like I said, we try to keep it light here, and like I said at the beginning, I read some of the grossest shit I have ever read in that book. It goes to some dark places, but you know what kind of turns it around and makes it weird and funny is the fact that most of it is country music stars. Most of it takes place in Nashville. Apparently, Waylon Jennings,
that hit
the
CIA
music
song.
of Waylon Jennings is
Sorry,
all
people who love Waylon Jennings.
It's all CIA code.
She had to drag him into
mind control codes, and she was married to a man named Alex Houston, who is a Nashville country music ventriloquist. I shit you not. Oh my God, that was her handler and mind controller for the longest time. And they try to talk about how, like, it's perfect that he's a ventriloquist because he's got a separate personality inside of him that's actually the dummy named Elmer. It's the height of ridiculousness in a lot of this shit, man. The people that you hear the most about this Monarch shit from have largely been women, the most vocal people. You have the occasional, Fritz Springmeier, but he's such a... Let me break down the top people, because I know this is mostly about Cathy O'Brien, but you've got a couple as well. So Cathy O'Brien, Kathleen Ann O'Brien, was the first victim of trauma-based mind control to specifically mention Project Monarch, a CIA program in which dissociative personalities were programmed to perform various tasks such as espionage, drug smuggling, message delivery, and prostitution. They work in conjunction with an international pedophile ring, drug kingpins, and Satanists. She is the most prominent victim of Project Monarch at the time of this writing. By the way, I got most of my information from an awesome website called Illuminati Rex. That's it's a very rational, well-researched, really well-researched site that sort of, it's all about the Illuminati, and there's a huge article on Monarch that's very informative. It covers the whole history of MK Ultra and a lot of the military applications of hypnotism and, potential real-life brainwashed Manchurian candidates such as Sirhan, etc. Anywho, O'Brien was physically and spiritually abused by her father and uncles from the time of her birth in 1957. After being caught producing and distributing child pornography through the Post, starring... Oh, God, I don't even want to say this.
Dogs. It's dogs.
In 1964, her father sold her to the CIA in return for being let off the hook. The agency was looking for subjects for multi-generational families for their top-secret Project Monarch program. Her father went to Harvard for a 2-week crash course on raising, i.e. traumatizing, Monarch children. Cathy received Wizard of Oz programming, developed a photographic memory, once again never demonstrated, and increased her visual acuity 44 times, once again, never demonstrated. She made 2 instructional videos for mind control programmers at NASA, because NASA's involved in this too.
Of course.
They were called, the videos, How to Divide a Personality and How to Create a Sex Slave. And I guess they just sit around at NASA and watch that when they're not fiddling around with robots on Mars. Her sexuality was quote-unquote enhanced, and she was judged suitable to become a presidential model, highly prized prostitutes, and messengers for the world's most powerful people. Her first handler was Gerald Ford. Do you like nachos? Gerald Ford.
Stop falling down. She was used to prop him up half the time.
But many people had the quote-unquote keys to the kingdom. That is, they knew the trigger codes to access her sexual personalities, including Senator Vanderjagt. It's German. Senator Byrd, Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, Dick Cheney, Ronald Reagan, Billy Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Manuel Noriega.
Oh, no, not him.
Saudi King Fahd, George H.W. Bush, Baby Doc Duvalier, not Papa Doc, as well as numerous country music entertainers and pro baseball players. She was rescued from her husband in 1988.
She was rescued from him? That's good.
Yeah, she was rescued from her original husband, the ventriloquist guy.
Who handled her?
Yeah, her handler. In 1988 by Mark Phillips.
I think he's got that hands up that puppet's butt.
The couple fled to Alaska, where Phillips, an quote-unquote internationally recognized expert in mind control and deprogramming, no, he's not. No one's ever heard of this fucking guy outside of this book.
Nobody calls him that.
Began the arduous task of deprogramming her. Phillips loves to insinuate that he was a CIA or DIA contractor, but has the appearance and demeanor of a used car salesman.
What's DIA?
Defense Intelligence Agency.
Oh, do it again.
Phillips often makes wild and unsubstantiated claims, such as the existence of an above-top secret, there's no such thing as above-top secret,
Nope.
government laboratory under a lake at Disney World, which he contends is declassified information. He also claims to have used a machine that would cause people entering his house to instantly forget what they were doing. Intruders would just stay there and would die of thirst if he didn't go home.
It's called a billy club.
He knows because he tested it on his neighbors. Phillips also claims to have seen Project Monarch documents while doing contract work for NASA in the 60s and 70s. Alternatively, he admitted making up the Project Monarch cryptonym to see who would pick it up. After the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence supposedly refused to hear O'Brien's testimony, the couple claimed she was censored by the government for reasons of quote-unquote national security. They always love to put national security in quotes in these things.
Yeah, I can't pay my taxes because it's a matter of national security.
Or anytime they can't answer a question.
Yeah. Some fans are convinced that she did testify to Congress. When a FOIA request filed with the CIA for Cathy's name returned no hits, it further convinced them of the government's duplicity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because there's no evidence, now there's evidence?
Yeah, the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. Undeterred, the couple collected their testimony and made it into a book, Trance-Formation of America, which they self-published in order to maintain the integrity of its content. Yeah, because it screams integrity. The strength of human spirit, O'Brien is now a fully rehabilitated U.S. government White House/Pentagon level mind control survivor. The couple has recently taken another alleged survivor under their wings, much to the dismay of the unfortunate girl's family. There's several others. Oh my God. There's a woman named Bryce Taylor and another woman named Cisco Wheeler who are kind of in this whole same boat. They claim to be Project Monarch mind control survivors. I forget which one. I think it's I think it's Cisco Wheeler. She said she made a claim that she was inoculated against the AIDS virus because she was a sex slave that was used by various important people, meaning that if she were to give some of her blood to a scientist, we could eliminate AIDS right now.
They could at least build a resistance.
Exactly.
To the virus.
I'm going to say it now because we're like 56 minutes in. This reeks of I'm specialism.
Yes.
Well, don't you know, all Americans are exceptional.
Yeah. No, I very much agree. This has got all that very me. I. It happened to me.
This is a person, whether this is true or not, we can say that she likes attention.
Yeah, yes. And like we said at the top, this woman has been traumatized. I'm almost certain of it.
Sure.
Something bad happened to her.
It's obvious that she was a victim of parental abuse and sexual abuse.
I would say that's probably a good
Probably
call,
to a large degree, but she's
and
maybe a little bit narcissistic.
Self-preservation takes on a new form when you're trying to survive that kind of abuse,
exactly.
I'm sure.
Narcissism very much evolves out of that kind of behavior.
I can't, I can't say I've ever experienced anything remotely close to any of this. So I have no idea. And, if anyone out there listening, if you've been a victim of such trauma as we're speaking about, we're not trying to poke fun. We're not trying to, minimize it. We're not trying to victim blame, anything like that. It's just that these stories make it harder, once again, for the people that have had to really deal with this sort of thing in life and who are trying to get better and move on from it. This just sensationalistic horse shit.
Yeah.
And it just drowns out the real cries for help and the real methods and avenues for people to achieve that help. So
not only that, but it contributes to the mythology of true information. It throws out, it takes actual real information out there, and it puts mythology on it. It convolutes it, and it
dirties the water, man.
Yeah. It dirties the water that everybody's drinking from.
Yep. And I actually, while reading her book, the thought crossed my mind a few times reading her book that she is some sort of disinformation agent, that she's directly or indirectly, voluntarily or involuntarily, yes, she's muddying the waters and making things kind of convoluted and much worse.
If you have been a victim of the same things or similar things that she has been in real life, please don't go to her as a form of leader, because this is This is delusion.
Yeah, always go to a doctor. And I mean, I know that...
And not Dr. Cameron.
Maybe not the first doctor.
No, I mean, go to several doctors.
Yeah.
Get, multiple opinions. But yeah.
It can vary quite a bit.
Because I can speak for all of us here. We all have our personal issues with mental hygiene, we'll say, etc. The only thing that's going to help you get better is taking action. And you're going to have to talk to a doctor. You need medical help. So don't lock yourself in a room. Don't shut yourself off from society. You have people who love you and care about you. It may not seem like it sometimes. I know depression can be a real motherfucker.
I don't even know you, and I care about you. I do.
Yeah, we want everyone to have a fulfilled, healthy, full life.
Everybody deserves a shot.
That's right. And
I guess... don't deserve to live as slaves.
No, nobody does.
Nobody.
No one does. You are worth it, and you're the shit, and you need to remember that. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break.
Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere, and even earn some money, all in one place, for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters. Here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record, edit podcasts right from your phone, computer, no matter what. Setup super easy. You can start creating today. Then you can distribute podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. And when you want to take conversations with your fans to the next level, Q&A polls are the best way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. We love it. We also love the analytics portion of it because we get to monitor where people are watching and listening and stuff like that. Pretty sweet. Download Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
Hey, and we're back with some more abuse.
Are we?
Oh, yeah.
So, the whole Project Monarch mythology, if these books didn't already muddy the waters, the stories of these women specifically who claim to be Monarch victims, I'm, sure they're victims of something, but I doubt that it's this convoluted, vast conspiracy. What really didn't help, aside from their books, was a doctor by the name of Dr. Corydon Hammond. Geraldo, once again, Geraldo interviewed therapists who reported being intimidated and receiving death threats for treating victims and exposing satanic ritual abuse. There's never been any convictions. There's never been any legit information. The FBI even concluded there is no vast satanic conspiracy. And you know what? I believe them. We'd have found at least one, out of the millions that they claim were going on at the time. He talked to the parents of the McMartin preschool trial, which, if you don't know, was one of the biggest satanic panic trials from the 80s, early 90s.
Those preschool kids were in a cult?
They were supposedly abused by one. They were flushed down toilets. They were taken into balloons. They practiced with rock stars. There's all kinds of just ridiculous claims that make no sense. And he talked to the parents, and it's like they were almost upset that their children weren't molested because no one believed them, quote unquote. But it's the kids were like making such ridiculous claims, and then you have the various therapists who were sort of asking leading questions into this stuff. And then from that comes in the False Memory Foundation, and it gets very murky. You have all this just
the Men in Black,
the ridiculous shit. Well, once again, I mean, you have the whole potential clown ops side of this, but I very much doubt that any of this satanic ritual abuse bullshit happened. But Geraldo brought this doctor on, and this doctor would later go on to give a speech at a gathering of therapists held at the Radisson Hotel Plaza in Alexandria, Virginia, because that's where shit gets done, in the summer of 1992. His lecture, entitled Hypnosis in MPD, or Multiple Personality Disorder, Ritual Abuse, popularly known as the Green Bomb speech, because there's this reoccurring character named Dr. Green or Dr. Green Bomb that shows up, not Dr. Green Thumb, not to be confused, who is allegedly Mengele himself, according to most of these stories. So Joseph Mengele has somehow survived all this time and it was behind most of this stuff. He was the head Nazi, brainchild in charge, the HNIC.
Question.
The head Nazi in charge. Yeah.
Is Dr. Green
or Green Bomb?
Dr. Green or Green Bomb. I mean, this is maybe pretty out there, but could that be connected to the Green Man, who is the devil?
No, it was just a that's a stretch.
That's a stretch, okay.
I mean, that you do have the weird supernatural demon implanting side of the story.
Okay.
But Dr. Green or / Dr. Green Bomb was just a, what's the word? Like a cryptonym or a secret code name, basically, for Mengele, supposedly.
Okay. Well, maybe that's why.
There's no B in Mengele.
Hammond had a solid reputation as a psychotherapist and hypnosis expert, and hundreds of therapists attended this conference. This is the same claim he made on Geraldo years earlier, except he added a twist. Not only was ritual abuse real, it was used by a secretive worldwide network of Satanists intent on building a robotic army of Manchurian candidates who did assassinations, prostitution, cheese pizza, snuff films, drug smuggling, as well as international arms dealing in order to create a satanic new world order ruling over everyone and everything. Of note for readers of this article, Hammond specifically mentions Project Monarch, which he described as a U.S. government intelligence black ops program. The speech marks the earliest documented reference to Monarch. He also mentions the Illuminati. Hammond received this information 2.5 years before giving his speech. He has confirmed much of it through consultation with his clients, although Hammond doesn't name his source. Cathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips were beginning to speak out and distributing quote-unquote proof of their experiences around this time.
So here's the problem. There's a great deal of legitimacy to their claims, and then it spirals out of control.
Yeah, yes. It's Dan Brown principle, right? Like when he wrote his books, as you go back in time, the less real the historical events are. Because you can track the truth until you hit a certain point, and then there's no way to even validate or discredit it.
There's clearly some delusion, at least some going on here.
A, you can't prove a negative,
No.
So there's that. And then B, just the over-the-top sensationalistic horseshit peppered throughout. Once again, it makes everything, she's trying to sell a book.
She manages to pull in a lot of organizations who have names.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
that makes you special.
The number of politicians and celebrities alone listed throughout the book, I mean, it's ridiculous, man. Dr. Cord and Hammond, he talked about how infants are taken at around 2.5 years old and are made disassociative through
brown eye to pink eye
torture. 5 years later, the abuse is kicked up a notch like Emeril Lagasse until the end of their teenage years and reinforced periodically on adults. Bloodliners, children coming from multiple generations of ritual abuse, are precious to the program. Code words and secret signals are used to activate personalities, delta codes to activate an assassin, beta codes for sex. He laid out the different levels of programming, including the Greek letter programs listed above, as we mentioned before. He also revealed how to access these different programs, and more importantly for therapists in the room, he detailed how to deprogram mind control victims. He determined that between half to 2/3 of ritually abused patients had some sort of mind control programming, thus linking satanic ritual abuse with the government's mind control research. Hammond named Dr. Green, aka Green or Green Bomb, as one of the key players in the government's mind control program. Man, listen to this. Okay, Green was raised in Germany as a Hasidic Jew and taken to a concentration camp once the Nazis took over. The Nazi scientists took a liking to the young lad, and he began helping them in experiments. He came over to work in the U.S. with other Nazi scientists under paperclip and studied medicine on Uncle Sam's dime. His experience made him a valuable mind control researcher, and he designed and supervised many of the programs. Dr. Green's backstory would change dramatically throughout the future. The professor's lecture was Dr. Corydon Hammond. His lecture was very well received, ending with a standing ovation. One of the therapists attending the conference was New Orleans therapist Valerie Wolf. Valerie Wolf discovered that 2 of her ritually abused victims had also been subjected to mind control using Hammond's techniques, the techniques he mentioned. On March 15, 1995, Wolf and her clients, Krista Nicola Ebner and Claudia Mullen, testified before the Advisory Committee on Human Radiation Experiments. Now, this, outside of the MK-Ultra government hearings, this is the only other hearing that had any sort of legitimacy to it, to a degree. Krista Nicola testified first on how she was subjected to torture from 1966 to 1976 as part of a mind control program to turn her into a spy and assassin. A man she knew as Dr. Green used radiation, electroshocks, hypnosis, as well as drugs to induce trauma. She learned espionage tradecraft, including how to pick locks, being secretive, and memory techniques, enabling her to develop a photographic memory. Once again, things that were probably never, tested.
So was she like trapped in a cage and like for 10 years?
Not trapped in a cage, but
she like,
according to the story, repeatedly subjected to, how to put this, extended experimentation.
I mean, did they come and kidnap her every night or something?
I guess so, man. I mean, I really don't know. See, that's the problem. Is like these stories are.
It's not very pragmatic.
It's very.
Like, I would believe that the government would definitely brainwash its own people so that whenever it sends out to do some black op and then the person gets killed, they just say this, and the person has no idea who they are, and then they go to jail or get killed by that government. Yes, I believe that our government would do that. Yeah. However, this way.
Yeah, it's the methodology that doesn't make very much sense. Yeah, and there's a lot of things I wouldn't put past the government, especially, the sneaky, shitty black ops, black budget side of things. You want to make an omelet, you're going to have to break a few eggs.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that about people's brains. I mean, in general, like, is how dirty tricks work and being a sneaky fucker.
Yeah.
Like, that's just part of the job.
Psychopathy has no limits.
Oh, no. She would often escape and sneak into Dr. Green's office and photographically memorize entire files, including trigger code words, CIA and military correspondence, as well as project names and sub-project numbers. After nearly a decade, DeNicola proved a poor subject matter for assassination training. Dr. Green attempted to trigger her self-destruct programming. The second victim to testify, Claudia Mullen, was mind-controlled, quote-unquote, for almost 3 decades, from 1957 to 1984. As a result, she offers a lot more insider knowledge of the program than DeNicola. Mullen was used as a child and all through her teens in sexual entrapment schemes to blackmail powerful politicians. Now that, I'm not saying this happened to her, but that scheme, I definitely know that the fucking intelligence community uses that kind of shit. It's all about blackmail and what you can get on someone. It's a classic cult tactic. Like, confess all your sins to us, and then next thing you know, you want to leave or do something different. It's like, well, how about we tell everyone about the peanut butter and the dog? The CIA had figured out that video footage of anyone having sex with a person of young age was the surest method to get anyone to do what the agency wanted. Once again, wouldn't put it past them. Mullen testified to being subjected to radiation, hypnosis, electroshock, sleep deprivation, isolation, brainwashing, as well as physical and sexual abuse in order to create multiple personalities and make her into a perfect spy. See, and this is another thing. Going back to MK-Ultra, obviously the people in charge of that program, I don't think most of them did LSD themselves, because if you've ever done it, you would know it's going to be exactly like that scene from Pineapple Express where what's his name is smoking weed at the beginning. But I can only imagine that trying to get people to...
Bill Hader.
Yes, Bill Hader. Okay, yeah, it's like the Bill Hader scene. I've heard stories about Edgewood Arsenal, and they would drug these dudes and put them through various military drills, and they were just like falling down and laughing or like just curling up in a ball and, rocking back and forth and dealing with whatever, trauma they're feeling inside their head. It's not an effective, it just doesn't work. It's not going to work. At the age of 8, she was recruited by the CIA and met Sidney Gottlieb. It's a big name in MKUltra.
Gottlieb.
Who she knew as Uncle Sid. She received training at the agency's Deep Creek cabins in Maryland on sexually coaxing information out of older men before being used in a Project Midnight Climax type honeypot operation to extract information or blackmail powerful and influential people, be it friend or foe. The CIA wished to maintain a continuous source of funding for its mind control experiments. In addition to Gottlieb, Mullen personally met pretty much anyone connected to the CIA's MKUltra program, including Richard Helms, Alan Dulles, John Gittinger, Ewan Cameron, George White, Morse Allen, and Martin Horn. This is a veritable who's who of the government's research into mind control. Her therapist claimed that Mullen couldn't have known this level of details without actually being there or filing FOIA requests herself, which Mullen hadn't. However, if you've read a little book called The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, which details the birth and lifespan of MKUltra, all that information is pretty much readily available in that book. Mullen admitted that the only radiation she had been subjected to was in the form of x-rays for regular health checkups, which was the whole radiation exposure was the whole impetus behind this thing, basically. The government, after MKUltra, took human experimentation very seriously after they got busted for it, basically. And, we have a history of, not we, the three of us, but the government has a history of experimenting on civilians. I mean, they've gassed New York, all kinds of different shit.
Yeah, they unwittingly doped a bunch of women in Puerto Rico with birth control pills.
Jesus.
Yeah, and then a lot of kids came out really effed up.
Flipper baby.
Well,
it's very Nazi-rific.
Let's not bring
Dr. Lilly.
Let's not bring Flipper into this.
Dr. Lilly and Dr. Werner von Braun.
Just knowing that these people have done the things that they've done, it gives such a story as Project Monarch credence, and it lends credibility to the story, which is extremely unfortunate, obviously, because these things happen. It's just not to the degree that these stories are positing. There is no doubt that the U.S. government used drugs, radiation, sleep deprivation, electroshocks, and other forms of torture,
sleepy time trips to Candyland,
on unsuspecting Americans. There is no doubt that the women outlined in this episode and in this article have actually suffered abuse in the past. There is no doubt that the victims themselves believe themselves to be telling the truth. I believe that they believe.
I believe that they believe it too.
However, their stories, improbabilities, and exaggerations make them unlikely to be true. At least not how they've described them.
They've certainly been traumatized enough to believe all this.
Oh, yeah. And see, this is another thing, like the whole concept of victim blaming or like believe the victim. I mean, totally, yes. But you have to discern,
Well, they don't just go out and arrest someone on one accusation. They actually go and conduct an investigation
Exactly.
First.
And
like these are serious everyone has rights. So you can't just go around, that clown put his hand on my butt. You need to put that clown in prison. Like, did you, sir, Mr. Goofs, did you put your hand?
Mr. Goofs is a prominent citizen, and he will not stand for these accusations.
Answer the question, Mr. Goofs.
This all plays, unfortunately, once again, into the idea of clown ops. And unfortunately, when you have stories like this, it can become a giant garbage pile for a therapist to work through. This becomes, you have to sift through the shit and the delusions and the et cetera to get to the point where you can actually offer real help. Would the government do these things? I'm 100%. I totally believe they would. But did they? I don't think so. It's just very impractical. It's too much work. And once again, we mentioned earlier, look at the country's infrastructure. Look at
the governmental infrastructure and how it works on a universal level.
Look at bureaucracy. I mean, it's just...
if it's inefficient, they're not...
Yeah.
I mean, even the most sociopathic people on the planet from the 70s, those guys.
Yeah.
They still tried to make sure to get people that wouldn't be immediately noticed that they were missing.
Yeah.
You know, they probably tested their skills out on someone like, you know, that lady that works the corner down there, and you know, her pimp may be looking for her, but no one else is wondering where she is except her Johns.
It's kind of like how we talked about as well in the I forget his name, the game show host. What was it?
Chuck Barris episode. Yeah, like what is the prototype for an agent or an operative? There is none. It's the same thing as saying, what's the prototype or profile for a serial killer? There really is none. I mean, look at this Gilgo Beach fucking Long Island serial killer piece of shit that they just caught. It's the same story every time they catch one of these dudes. All his neighbors come out of the woodwork and say, you know, he was just a quiet, regular guy. Yeah.
Just a regular guy. Just a regular guy. It's all
you
hear
He was
about.
A regular guy that ate people.
Yeah. I mean, he was a weird fucker, like, regardless. But, you know, people thought it was like, oh, Ed, you know.
Yeah.
So
he does make some good sausage. We know that.
So, I mean, yeah, you know, anybody, anywhere has the propensity to do pretty horrible shit.
Or really great shit.
Or, yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Or really great things. So, I mean, I wanted to cover this woman and sort of mention the other people who were sort of in the same boat as her because, once again, the real thing that gets to me about this is just... It's the muddying of the waters, really. It's the number of people who have been traumatized repeatedly through their lives, who have been subjected to horrible shit. This sort of makes a mockery of it, and it's sort of just like this. All this is a cartoon, is what this is. This is something that is a fictional narrative that I think is another reason why conspiracy theory has become so prominent in the last few years. It's that it turns people's life into an adventure story. It makes them the hero or the one super smart, I'm the only one that sees through the fucking bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the I'm special thing. And, you know, I mean...
The whole, I used to be Abraham Lincoln in a former life.
Yeah, exactly. It's, and I mean, I don't know, people, not to sound corny, but you're already special. I mean, you're you, and that's there's
alive.
No other. Yeah, even the dead people. Shit, like
nobody's replaced them.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just special in a different way.
This whole Project Monarch thing, it goes so deep, and it's like connected to so much shit, and I just don't want to see it creep any further into. You know, there's people out there who actually have real problems. Like,
yeah,
we've got people who are spending too much goddamn time on the internet, engulfed in social media and weird message boards, and next thing you know, you got another goddamn mass shooter on your hands.
It radicalizes and normalizes behaviors that are very unbecoming. Let's just
yeah. So, you know, this is kind of the impetus behind why we wanted to mention this stuff today. If you've got a problem, if you feel like something's wrong, there are people who will listen. There are places you can go. There are people who love you. As a matter of fact, we've got a couple of resources here. J-Lo, if you don't mind kicking those off real quick.
Okay, there are actually a ton of resources, especially here in the States, mainly because we are a capitalist venture, and many of them are private. But
your health is a capitalist venture, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
especially
I am going to list off, I'm going to give you the name of a website that is a portal to a bunch of websites that have free confidential support from a helpline or a hotline near you. And yes, I did read that. Online chat, text, or phone, the website is called findahelpline.com. To give you an idea as to how universal it is, it says start typing your country here. So,
sweet.
And it has a list, and it goes on and on and on. And I would say it has, if not most countries around the world, close to most.
That's the most universal we could find that allows, you know we have listeners outside of the States, so we want to try and help as many people as we can. You know, there, like we said, there's avenues out there. There's people who will help you, and you know, you're not alone. You have to muster up the courage and the can do and the say hey, and recognize when something's wrong and get it taken care of. I guess that's enough preaching from us for the day. But we appreciate y'all coming in and listening to this. I think next week we're going to have something much lighter fare. So it's a little something experimental, a little something weird, a little something different. Hope you like it. Anywho, yeah, thanks for listening. This has been the Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
I'm J-Lo.
And we'll see you next week.
Real quick. If you want to contact us, please contact us at kcandicast@gmail.com. Looks like we are going to be in a transitionary stage from our website into Facebook.
Yeah, we're actually in quite a transitional phase. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. Some good, some bad.
lots of stage direction.
Yeah,
lots of stuff.
We're trying to get things. Speaking of government, never mind. Yeah, there's. We're just trying to get things resituated. So but we'll be here. We're gonna have episodes out every week still. So
for free.
Yeah, for free. Always. Once again, thanks for coming by, and we'll see you next week.
Deuces. My penis.